Have you ever felt like a ghost in your own life? Like you're moving through rooms, physically present, but your spirit never quite registers? It's a quiet sensation, hollow. It is a feeling I learned well. Over many years, I perfected the habit of taking up less space, wanting less, and slowly becoming less. I genuinely believed I was being thoughtful. I believed I was easing the lives of the people I loved. But I was wrong. I wasn't making anything easier. I was erasing myself. Carefully, silently, one small decision at a time. I spent my entire life trying not to be a burden, and I succeeded so completely that I became invisible. The most unsettling part isn't that nobody noticed me, it's that I trained them not to. I designed my own disappearance. I curated the empty halls of my own museum. By the time I understood what I'd built, the lights were off, the doors were locked, and everyone had already gone home. It didn't happen all at once. It was gradual, a slow dimming, like the volume of my existence being turned down, notch by notch, until only static remained. For me, it began in childhood. There is a concept called emotional neglect. It isn't about harm inflicted. It is about what never arrived, the absence itself, the comfort that wasn't offered, the sense of being seen that failed to form. I learned early that my needs disrupted the room. I remember being small, 6 or 7 years old, waking with a dull hunger late at night. I'd step into the hallway and see the living room light on. My parents were worn down from the day. A voice would surface inside me. Don't interrupt. They're tired. You don't really need anything. So I'd retreat to bed, hunger folded into a quiet ache. I learned to contain myself to keep the peace. I was a good kid, quiet, easy. I took pride in it. I thought low maintenance meant maturity. I didn't see that I was rehearsing my own disappearance. That pattern became the template for my life. With friends, I was always the whatever person. Where should we eat? Anywhere's fine. What movie? I don't mind. I told myself I was flexible, but I was actually signaling my own absence. I was telling them my preferences carried no weight. I held my opinions so lightly they drifted away. I was a passenger in my own friendships, smiling from the back seat, never once asking for the wheel. In my relationships, it deepened. It turned into what they call a fawn response. It's a survival instinct. You become what you think will keep the connection intact. The moment tension surfaced, panic followed. An internal alarm would go off. Danger, disconnection. So I apologized first. I dropped my point even when it mattered. I buried the hurt just to restore calm. "It's fine" became my automatic response. But it wasn't fine. Each time I said it, I reinforced the same lesson. My feelings are secondary. My boundaries are negotiable. This kind of silence doesn't preserve relationships. It hollows them out. It leaves a void where intimacy should live. I thought I was building bridges. Instead, I let people pave roads over me. I feared being too much, so I shrank into nothing. In the important moments, I stood just behind myself. I was cheering on the person I never fully became. Over time, this suppression does real damage. Chronic conflict avoidance is a quiet toxin. You think you're avoiding war with others, but the real conflict is internal, and it never ends in victory. By muting my own voice, I made genuine closeness impossible. I see it often now. So many people are taught to prioritize harmony over self until they lose track of who they are. For decades, this was simply life. The steady hum of invisibility played beneath everything. I didn't question it. It felt normal. The ache of being overlooked was so constant, I mistook it for existence. Until one day, the silence stopped blending in. It was my 40th birthday. 40, a number that carries weight. I insisted I didn't want anything. As always, I said, "Please don't make a big deal." And I believed myself. I spent weeks minimizing it. I assured my partner and my friends that I truly wanted nothing. I offered them the convenience of my own absence. But somewhere deep down, a small, stubborn ember hoped they'd ignore me. I hoped they'd see past my words. It was a quiet test, a plea. Please celebrate me anyway. Please prove I matter, even when I pretend I don't. The day arrived. My partner kissed my cheek and said, "Happy birthday." Then they left for work. They promised we'd do something later. I checked my phone throughout the day. That nervous flutter refused to settle. A few messages came through. A quick HBD, a looping GIF. My parents called in the evening. It was a pleasant conversation that barely touched the day itself. As night fell, I sat alone in the living room. No dinner, no surprise. No one pushed against the walls I'd spent years reinforcing. Everyone had simply listened to me. They accepted that I didn't want to matter. And why wouldn't they? I'd been teaching them that lesson my entire life. That's when the truth arrived, slowly, coldly. They hadn't forgotten me. They hadn't dismissed me. It was worse. My lack of needs had become my identity. They weren't cruel. They were consistent. They were responding to the version of me I'd presented. Someone who required nothing. Someone who was easy. Sitting there as the light faded, the weight settled in. I had built a life so careful not to inconvenience anyone that I had successfully removed myself from it. This is the core of it. I didn't vanish by accident. I taught everyone how to live without me. I handed them the scissors. They only finished what I'd already worn thin. It wasn't their failure to see me. It was my success at staying unseen. There was no anger, only grief. A deep, hollow grief. It's a unique kind of heartbreak, to recognize yourself as the architect of your own loneliness. You get what you tolerate, and I had tolerated my own erasure. Before I continue, let me ask you something. Have you felt that? A silence loud enough to confirm what you feared? That moment when no response is the answer. If you feel safe doing so, share a piece of your story in the comments. This can be a place where we finally acknowledge one another. Sometimes, being seen starts with speaking.
In the weeks after that birthday, everything stayed the same, and yet nothing did. On the surface, life moved on. Underneath, something had shifted. The world hadn't changed, but my view of it had. I wasn't angry at the people around me. They'd only learned what I taught them. What settled in instead was grief. Grief for the self I never allowed to live. I understood then that I couldn't suddenly become visible, not in the way I once imagined. If I abruptly voiced my needs now, it would feel unnatural. It would violate the quiet agreement I'd spent decades drafting. My relationships were structured around my absence. To suddenly appear would feel like haunting my own life. It would feel false, to them and to me. I had to face a painful truth. The past couldn't be revised. I couldn't force anyone to see what I'd hidden. That lifelong hunger to be recognized from the outside had to be released. That moment had passed. The ship was gone. That's where the real shift began. The work stopped being about them seeing me. It became about me seeing myself for the first time. I had to trade external validation for internal recognition. Neglect fractures your sense of self. It leaves you unsure of what you want or who you are. My task became simple and difficult: to finally meet myself. It began quietly. I started asking small questions. What do you want for dinner? And I waited. Not for the reflexive, anything's fine, but for something real. I want pasta. So I made pasta. It felt absurdly powerful. I began journaling, not just events, but emotions. When "I'm fine" rose up, I paused. I wrote the truth instead. I'm hurt. I'm disappointed. I'm exhausted. Naming feelings instead of burying them was new territory. I was relearning sensation, carefully. This isn't about becoming loud. It's about becoming solid. About building self-respect that doesn't rely on an audience. About accepting that your needs matter, even if no one else is watching.
The road forward isn't bright or celebratory. Not yet. It's shaded by grief for the years spent as a ghost. There is still loneliness here, but it's different now. It's the solitude of becoming, not the ache of being unseen. I'm learning to witness my own life, to validate my own experiences, to tend to my own wounds. I acknowledge my small victories, even if the applause is silent. This isn't about forcing visibility anymore. It's about becoming so grounded in who I am that my own recognition is enough. If this story touched something inside you, consider subscribing. Thank you for being here. And please, be gentle with yourself today.